few words as well before I read this letter. It felt really hard for me to follow those Kruus boys. I had the privilege of being here a couple of weeks ago with both Anders and Martin. And, it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, to see brothers so loving and beautiful with each other. So it was a really emotional time for me, I think, having 3 boys myself. I just wish that my sons can grow to have such a wonderful relationship and caring siblings. Avril and I have been friends for many years, since our UFC and Earl's Girls days. We also did some fun traveling together. And it was actually shortly after returning from a trip that we both were fortunate enough to meet these amazing, fun, adventurous, great guys. And my husband Billy and Johan are real kindred spirits. And I know, like many of you, Billy is probably most feeling the loss of sharing parenthood with another wonderful, fun, spontaneous dad. We're both just so grateful that our own kids got the privilege of knowing Johan, and that they got to play and grow up with him as well. And I know many of you feel the same way about your own parenting and your own children. And as I see all of the kids here, I just think how lucky we are that we've got so many beautiful little lights to carry that spirit forward. Living in Calgary, it's been really difficult for us to be so distant from our good, wonderful friends at this time. And I just want to take a moment and thank the town of Rossland and all these amazing friends and family that have been here. It's given us a lot of peace to know that there's so much love and support and caring for our friends. So that said, I get invited to this beautiful event and I breeze into town and it's all done, and all I have to do is get up here and read a fabulous letter. So I'm going to pass on these great words from Johan's good friend Jeff Green. For Johan, my deepest sympathies go to all of Johan's family and friends. I consider Johan to be one of my best friends, even though we've not seen each other for too many years. We met in our first year of tree planting up in Northern Ontario and instantly became like brothers. Boy, did we have some good times that summer and in the years ahead. That friendship led to living together on a 125-year-old tall ship called the Inca in Kingston while in our second year at Queen's. Now, Marty has informed me that there's some really good stories about that ship, the Inca, so I think that if you want to know more about dropping pants and prisoners, I think it was that you could ask Martin a little more about that later. Everyone could smell us in class because all of our clothes were permeated with Inca stink, as it came to be known. My life path took me away to Europe for a few years in the midst of university, but upon returning, Johan, Dave, Liz, Paul, and I shared an amazing house right on the water in Kingston, known far and wide as the Coach House. We had so many great times there, and I cherished that time together with Johan during that amazing period of life. We used to skate and ski out on the lake in front of the house in the winter. I'll never forget the day when Johan went out on his own one Saturday morning. Near the end of the day, we realized that Johan was still not back and it was starting to get dark. I went down to the lake, and sure enough, Johan's boots were still there. I estimated he'd been gone for at least 8 hours, but maybe more. We were just about to call the police when Johan barged through the door, blood streaming down his shins and a big smile on his face. He told us that he just skated around Wolf Island. Wolf Island is about the size of Bermuda. And I'm sure Johan was the first and only person to ever skate around it. The ice was so thin in sections that he had broken through and cut his shins. He had to tiptoe on his skates to get around the 2 ferry boat crossings on the island. Upon his return, Johan announced that he could not make himself tired. I think we all know that Johan could have been an Olympic athlete if he had not had so many diverse interests and loved his friends and good times so much. That day will always go down as legendary, and for me, exemplifies Johan's incredible spirit. He taught us all to spin the Buddha. You know that one? He was so full of life, and he inspired us all. The stories go on, including the time we got completely lost in fog in the middle of the night on Canoe Lake in Algonquin Park. I think the ghost of Tom Thompson came to visit us on that occasion. Then, of course, there was the infamous night Johan and I wrestled our way straight through the plate glass window into the display case of the James Reed Furniture Store on Princess Street. We seemed to be invincible in those days, which makes it all the more unreal to think that Johan is gone. I'm grateful that Johan's incredible spirit will live on in his daughters, Kai and Talia, and in his wife, Avril. I know his spirit will also remain with all the many people he touched throughout his life. I look forward to future wrestling matches with Johan someday, somewhere. In loving memory, Jeff Green.
What a guy, eh? Like, amazing man. And Grant was saying, you know, about when did you meet Johan? This week, when I was thinking about it and calling people and stuff, I met him 19 and a half years ago here in Rossland at what was the Red Mountain Motel with my shiny new planting bags that I didn't know how to use and my shovel and stuff. And he was there to kind of give me the ropes, as it was. And before I read my thing, there's a friend of mine who came to Rossland about 8 years ago. And he was here really briefly. And he was a lot like Johan. He was a really strong guy, athlete, smart, loved to play. And he had a mountain biking accident. And he was a quadriplegic, or he is a quadriplegic now. So when he sent me this little thing to read, it touched me because there's a reference to a handshake. And he says, there are some people that we're very lucky to cross paths with. You know the type, they're unforgettable. The kind of person that gives you a firm handshake, not a limp one. The kind of person that asks you how you're doing with a sincere interest and looks you in the eye. And you respond, and he doesn't just move on to the business while you're in mid-sentence. The type of person that makes you feel good and comfortable inside. Not uneasy and anxious. Most of all, the type of person that you aspire to be. When I first met Johan, he gave me a firm handshake, looked me in the eye while he greeted me, and channeled his enticing energy right up to my soul. Unforgettable. He was a man whose energy lives on in everyone he shook hands with, and with that energy, let us aspire to take on each day with the gusto that he did. That was our friend Luke Anderson. So, I asked myself who this guy Johan is. You know, we often ask ourselves this question when we first meet someone who seems to be driven by some kind of internal steam engine. And over the years I've come to convince myself that Johan was powered by the same forces that drive nature itself. When he was around you, it seemed there was no way that you could push against him. I wouldn't say that you yielded to him, but rather that you just naturally learned to flow with him. To harness his strength and to channel his energy into yours. And like sailors on a ship, you played your part to stay on a determined course. And then he also understood that Johan was the wind and the waves all combined in a human form. First and foremost, he was a family man. Johan always took personal interest in staff members' lives, their lives away from work, and he never tuned anybody out when somebody needed an ear to listen. And Johan empathized with others' concerns as if they were his own. He understood that work was just a means to a goal, and that people had loved ones who depended on them as much or more so than he depended on these people.